Hello and welcome to Irish Science Fiction. My name is Brian Sexton and you are about to listen to, if you hang around, chapter 44 from the 56 chapters of a story called Nancy Good Aim, the Space Ranger. So, a hen, it's a daw, it's a tree, and away we go. Where are ye lot off to? Whispered a low voice from a darkened corner of a dark gap between the grey, damp stone of a group of buildings somewhere near a rocket landing platform in the city formerly known as Hobilogranicker on the planet of Jupiter. It was heard by European Space Agency mission specialists Bart McMorrow and Nancy McGinley and their elderly Jupiterian acquaintances known as Habon and Shenobble Unterwackel, but none of the four responded. They were listening for the footsteps of a Sozniack patrol, one which had spotted them exiting a rocket at the end of chapter 42, and chased Bart, Nancy, Habon and Shenobble when Nancy killed the patrolman and led the others down some of the dark streets. Now, Nancy had spent the time between chapter 42 and that point on running, leading the others, and trying to find her bearings in a strange extraterrestrial urban landscape. Bart had spent the time running and complaining about running. Habon and Shenobble had spent the time running, bickering with each other, and getting out of breath. The footsteps and shouting of the confused Sozniack patrol had grown distant, and Bart, Nancy, Habon and Shenobble had gotten tired. So Nancy chose a narrow dark passageway between some of the buildings as a place of rest. It seemed unremarkable and forgotten, a passageway exactly like any of the other dozens they had run past while fleeing the patrol. The streets, or wider access routes that they had seen, were only lit by faint dim red neon-style lighting attached to the buildings at inconsistent intervals, and throwing off just enough light to reflect themselves on pools of water that had gathered in places along the uneven stone ground. The streets also appeared deserted, which was why the sudden "Where are ye lot off to?" question came as a surprise to Nancy and inspired her to raise her loaded crossbow towards where it had come from. "There's no need for that," said the voice. "I'm only asking a question." "We're off to join the Sozniacks, but now we're running about the place instead," said Shenobble. "Whisht, you big dope, tell them nothing," muttered Habon. "Why?" asked Shenobble. "Because you're an idiot, and you'd have half the town know about our plan to kill Sosman before we even got near to his palace or boudoir or whatever he calls the den he likes to hang out in." "You're just after giving the game away, Habon, with your constant nagging." "I take it you're not from round here," said the hidden voice. "Show yourself," ordered Nancy. "Show myself what?" asked the voice. "She means come out of that dingly dell you're hiding in so we can see you," said Habon. "She's from Earth. It's just the way they talk on that planet. Oh, and forget what you just heard me say." "Forget what? The one with the weapon is an extraterrestrial?" asked the voice. "No, not that bit. Remember that bit. And the bit about stepping out of the dark. But forget the bit about us being here to kill Sosman." "Pity," said the voice. "What's a pity?" "I can't say. You asked me to forget about it," said the voice. "Was it about Sosman?" asked Habon. "I can't say." "Just step out so we can see you," said Nancy. Her request was followed by the appearance of a small, slightly built, pale male Jupiterian in black clothes stepping out from what appeared to be a solid wall at the side of a grey stone building beside where Nancy, Bart, Habon and Shenobble had paused their Sozniack patrol fleeing. "Did you just walk out through the wall?" asked Bart. He was out of breath and hoarse. "Yeah, so what? It's a free world. Well, it used to be. What's wrong with that?" asked the voice. "I've been running. Give me a minute," puffed Bart. "OK," said the stranger, who used the pause in this conversation to eye Bart and Nancy carefully. "How can you just walk through stone?" asked Bart eventually. "Magic," said the stranger. "I thought Sosman got rid of magic," said Habon. "He tried to," said the voice. "Who are you?" asked Nancy. "Bork Zungemeyer." "And what are you doing here?" asked Nancy. "I asked ye first." "You did, but I'm holding a loaded weapon," explained Nancy. "Yeah, and anyway, I told you what we were doing," said Habon. "You did, but then you told me to forget what you said," noted the stranger. "Anyway, I'm looking for people like ye," continued the stranger. "What do you mean, people like us?" asked Habon. "I mean people who want to, the thing I'm not supposed to know," said the small, pasty, black-clad stranger. "Kill Sosman Borkstapple?" asked Shenobble. "Whisht," said Habon. "Sure, what odds if he knows we're here to kill Sosman Borkstapple?" said Shenobble. "Nancy can just kill him if he starts squealing for the Sozniacks." "I don't want to have to do that," said Nancy. Yeah, well, life on, Jupiter is all about doing things you don't want to do, Nancy, said Shenobble. I can think of loads better things to be doing other than scrambling about the streets of Hobilogranicker while being chased by a load of Sozniack numpties armed with magic wands. And there's another thing about Sosman, he continued. He went and made magic illegal, but he has no problem with him or his buddies using it. How is that a thing, Shenobble? Snapped Habon. He's a bollocks! He thinks he's better than every other Jupiterian. Of course he's going to allow himself to use whatever suits him. And anyway, it's not just the Sozniacks still using magic. It's also witches and wizards. He wouldn't stop them. He tried, said the stranger, now known to Nancy, Bart, Habon and Shenobble as Bart Zungemeyer. Believe you me, he tried, and many of his followers were killed in the process of trying. Hang on, are you a wizard? Asked Shenobble. No, he's a snot-a-gomble repairman. Didn't you just see him walk through a stone wall? Of course he's a wizard, you big dope, said Habon. Go on, Bork, tell us, what did you mean by you were out looking for people like us? People I can recruit to help bring magic back to Hobilogranicker and rid the place of Sosman and his buddy Staunton and any other Jupiterians who genuinely think the place is any better for Sosman's rule. There's probably not too many of them, but you never know. So the more folk we can get to help defeat them, the better. Would you like to join the Hobilogranicker Defence League? We got great food and it's served hot 3 times a day. Deal, said Bart. All I want to do is eat and kill Sosman, said Shenobble. So that'll do. What sort of food? Asked Habon. Stop being fussy, Habon. Didn't he say it was good? Did you say Staunton? Do you mean Tom Staunton? Asked Nancy. Could be. I just know him as Chancellor Staunton. Bit of a mystery, really. He only started appearing at Sozniack mass instruction rallies 4 days ago. But it might be him. He's from planet Earth, all right. Are there many Stauntons on Earth? Yes, said Nancy. And do they all want to rule the solar system? Where is he? I need to get to him. That'll be tricky. He's in the Sosman Citadel, and that place is extremely well guarded. You can say what you like about the Sozniacks, and please do, but they're incredibly good at preserving their rule and guarding their leader. Pretty much rubbish at everything else. But I wouldn't even think of going near that citadel without an army. And I'm a wizard, so that should tell you something. I don't follow, said Nancy. Nancy, can you finish this chat over tea? Asked Bart. The lad said he had food and I'm starving. Your hungry friend is right, said the small black-clad magical stranger. The Sozniack patrol are incompetent, but they'll soon find us, or if they don't, somebody will spot us. And once somebody spots us, they'll be sure to squeal so as to get themselves into the patrol's good books. You can put down the weapon. Nancy, is it? Yes, it is, said Nancy. She lowered the crossbow and watched as the black-clad stranger produced a small cloth bag. Where did you just pull that out of? Asked Bart. I'm looking at you here, and I don't see any pockets in your clothes. There's no way I'm eating whatever's in it. It's not for eating, said the stranger known as Bart Zungemeyer. He reached into the bag and pulled out what looked to Nancy and Bart to be dark pea-sized gravel. Habon and Shenobble recognised the stones for what they were. I thought all the octa grains were dumped into the sea of uncertainty, said Habon, so ordinary mortals wouldn't be able to go wherever they liked. Not all of them, said the stranger. Well, obviously, I was just saying so that you'd explain to me how come it is that you have a bag of them stashed on you. Habon never got an explanation. The dark-clothed stranger flung the gravel into the air, and there it stayed, as if held up by an invisible force. The individual pieces seemed to scream as they turned from pale grey to a bright glowing orange, and then vibrate. Slowly at first, but then rapidly. The screams grew louder and the stones continued to vibrate, as did the surrounding buildings, walls and the ground beneath Nancy, Bart, Habon and Shenobble. One of the small glowing stones traced a rapid curved path around them. The stranger stepped into the circle of light it created, so as he was next to Habon. He said something inaudible and Habon shrugged and looked to Nancy, Shenobble and finally Bart for an explanation. Each of the 3 shrugged in response. The rest of the tiny glowing stones joined the first one in its circular path around them, until they were standing within a circle of streaking orange light. The ground beneath them disappeared. Nancy felt herself fall. It was not like any fall she'd ever had before, but it was a vaguely familiar sensation, like the G-forces she experienced during the takeoff of the Sandlaker mission all those months ago. But somehow different, smaller, less severe, like a long stumble, that ended with her standing on 2 feet holding a crossbow in the exact same position she had been before the fall. But now, she was in a massive, empty, incredibly ornate room. She looked around. She saw the dark-clothed stranger named Bart Zungemeyer smiling proudly, and she saw Bart and Habon and Shenobble, all standing next to her in the middle of the enormous room. The roof was supported by hundreds of elaborately carved polished rock pillars that splayed and leaned in towards the ceiling. The walls were too distant to make out clearly, but they appeared to be blue and glow. The floor was made of thousands of transparent, faintly green cobblestones, and beneath them what seemed to be a bright sea, the same colour as the walls, filled with hundreds of what looked to be multicoloured fish. The fish seemed to be singing. A long, slow, sad song. The notes of it were echoing through the transparent cobbled floor and into the room. They seemed to pulse up through the colourful angled pillars and then find a home in a vast cloud of tiny glowing fireflies, hovering just below the enormous vaulted roof. The fireflies seemed to dance at one at the arrival of each note. "Where are we?" asked Nancy.
"No idea, but I thought this pasty skinny buck said there'd be food," noted Bart.
"Yeah," agreed Shenobble.
We're in the Omperdon Chamber," stuttered Habon.
"Nancy asked me, not you," said the dark-clothed stranger. "You're in the Omperdon Chamber," he said. "It's a place for witches and wizards to hang out in between spells. But as you can see, there's not much call for it anymore. What with magic being banned and the purveyors of it all gone off to live in the woods or underground or up in the hills or plains or, gut forgive, somewhere like Shanlava-Feirstein." Nobody responded with words. Habon nodded her head knowingly. Shenobble scratched an armpit. Bart looked around the enormous room and Nancy stared blankly back at the stranger, still holding her crossbow. The stranger squatted into a seated position, and a delicate padded green chair appeared beneath him. "Have a seat," he said. Habon was first. A chair appeared beneath her. "Not there," said the dark-clothed stranger known as Bork.
"Where then?"
asked Habon. "Opposite me, at the table."
"There's no table."
A table suddenly appeared before the moderately sized stranger and Habon picked up her chair and pulled it opposite the stranger. A bucket of food appeared on the table before her.
"It's a trick! I knew it," said Shenobble. "He's using magic to trick us."
Bart darted over to the table and squatted next to Habon. A chair appeared beneath him and a bucket of food in front of him. He ate from it.
"Not bad," he said. "Could do with more salt. Actually, now that I've said it, it couldn't. It tastes perfect."
Shenobble walked over and squatted on the other side of Habon so that himself, Habon and Bart faced the dark-clothed magical Jupiterian. Shenobble was rewarded with a chair, a bucket of food and a nod from the stranger. "Help yourself."
"I will, but I know this is a trick."
Shenobble then stuffed a handful of food into his mouth, swallowed it and said,
"A tasty trick."
The stranger turned to Nancy, who was standing a small distance away from the table where Bart, Habon and Shenobble faced him. She slowly holstered her crossbow.
"Are you not going to sit down?"
asked the stranger. "Why would you, a magician, need help from us?" she asked.
"I'm a wizard, not a magician." "Do you hear that, Habon? I told you this was a trick. He's lured us here on the pretext of needing help just to feed us. If only you'd have listened to me." "When were we supposed to listen to you?" asked Habon. "You said nothing back up there in the alleyway." "Yeah, but I would have if you'd normally listened to me, and you normally don't, so I didn't bother. But if you did used to listen to me, I would have told you and the two earthlings that the whole hiding down an alleyway and magicking through walls thing was a bit odd. And any Jupiterian hiding in the shadows of a Hobilogranicker side street on a damp afternoon is up to no good."
"What do you want from us?" asked Nancy. She walked slowly to the table and squatted next to Bart. A chair appeared under her and a bucket of food in front of her. This meant the stranger faced all four visitors. "I need help from one of you, or possibly two," said the stranger.
"See, I told you this was a trick," said Shenobble. "This food probably tastes rotten." "What do you mean the food is rotten?" asked Habon. "It's nice."
"She's right, it is," agreed Bart.
"And you're off your head if you think this food is rotten." "That's what Bork wants you to think. He's fooled you all. The food is really rotten."
"Doesn't seem to be stopping you eating it," said Bart.
"That's because it's tasty," said Shenobble. "Suspiciously tasty." "Ah, would ye two just shut up and eat your tea?" snapped Habon. "Let that fella answer Nancy's question."
"See, nobody ever listens to me," muttered Habon.
"Would you blame them?"
said Habon. "What do you mean by you only need one or two of us?" asked Nancy. The stranger cleared his throat and gestured around the enormous empty room. "We're in a bit of bother here," he said. "Sozniack has managed to destroy every copy of the Book of Bongerlon, and with it the instructions for all life on Jupiter. Every copy, except one."
"Then not every copy,"
noted Bart. "Ye Jupiterians are all off your heads." "Hang on, Bart," said Nancy. "Let him speak. Do you know where Tom Staunton is?" The dark-clothed stranger nodded and gestured for Nancy to eat. "Yes," he said. "Anyway, the one copy of the Book of Bongerlon. Where is he?"
"Who?"
"Tom Staunton. I just asked you about him."
"And why do you want to know?"
"Because we're looking for him," said Nancy. "We need to return to Earth."
"Is he a friend?" "No," said Bart.
"Sort of," said Nancy. "How do you end up with a sort of friend?" asked the stranger.
"They're humans,"
explained Habon. "Oh," said the stranger. Anyway, it's your fault that we lost the Book of Bongerlan. If ye hadn't convinced the Wizard of Oberon that ye knew the wonders of physics, then he wouldn't have chucked the book. Who told you about the Wizard Oberon? Asked Nancy. The Witch of Mulnavore. She's been going about the place telling everyone that you killed the Wizard Oberon. That's not true, said Nancy. Well, someone did, said the stranger. Because he's dead. He was eaten by marmsticles. Ah, the poor lad. He wouldn't have wanted that, nodded the stranger. Anyway, we're going to need the book back. Can you not just tell me where Tom Staunton is? Asked Nancy. Well, I could, if you agreed to help us get back the last Book of Bongerlan. How could we do that? Asked Nancy. I don't know, said the stranger. Right, said Nancy. Fine, okay. Could you just tell me where Tom is now? Would you let me finish? Continued the stranger. As I was saying, I don't know how to find the book, but I know someone who does. The dark-clothed stranger then stood up dramatically. The green chair he had been sitting on immediately disappeared. Bart, Habon and Shenobble had their attention on their buckets of food in front of them, and the mechanics of shoveling lumpy stew from the buckets to their mouths without a spoon. Only Nancy paused briefly. So where is Tom? She asked. Your sort of friend is called Chancellor Staunton now, and he's one of Sosman's closest buddies, so you won't get near him without dying, or the help of magic. So which one is it to be? Neither, muttered Bart. Tom Staunton's a bollocks. Definitely the help of magic, said Habon. I wasn't asking you, said the stranger. Only someone who is not from Jupiter could go and get hold of the Book of Bongerlan without the guts knowing. Nancy looked around the enormous room with its colourful angled pillars and vaulted roof and dancing clouds and glowing fireflies, and then down at the transparent cobblestones and sea of multicoloured fish beneath them. She watched as Bart and two extraterrestrials scooped stew from buckets on a glowing purple magic table in the centre of that room, and looked at the stranger. I suppose I'll go find the book then, she said. Where is this person you said knows where the book is? The third commulsified pre-Hobilogranicker layer of the city. One of the buildings halfway down the Interior Folligang. The bit where the ground is all bumpy. He lives there with the wife. She's grand, but he's a bit odd. Still, he talks to the guts, so you best put up with it. I'll give you some halubalberries to bring along. That'll get you in the door. Nancy didn't reply. She was not fully sure what to do with that piece of information. What's the person's name? She asked. Tandulian Montgolfier. Sounds French, noted Bart, looking up from his bucket of stew. I wonder if he's related to the Director General. If you haven't forgotten, we're on Jupiter now, Bart. So how likely is it for him to be human? Never mind French, asked Nancy. You wouldn't know what the French, said Bart. Maybe there was a pilot of him up here before and they said nothing about it. Tandulian Montgolfier is as Jupiterian as you can get, interrupted the stranger. And you two humans are going to need to visit him and then persuade him to tell you where the book is and get that book and bring it back here. Sounds like a trick, said Shenobble. Of course it sounds like a trick. That's because everything here is a trick. Sure isn't the man a wizard? Do you pay attention to anything at all, Shenobble Unterwackle? Said Habon. Magic is no trick, noted their host. And so it was for the middle of the afternoon on the 8th day of the first human expedition to another planet. Tea time, a magical Jupiterian. Singing fish. European Space Agency Mission Specialist Bart McMurrow. European Space Agency Mission Specialist Nancy Goodame McGinley. Two elderly Jupiterians named Habon and Shenobble Unterwackle. The Hobilogranicker Defence League. An underground army of sorts. And the last remaining copy of the Book of Bongerlan adrift on the Sea of Uncertainty on Jupiter. Alright, thank you. If you stuck with that, fair play to you. There's more of them coming. Another 12 episodes and the story is over. So if you followed from the very, very beginning, which is a long, long time ago, I appreciate it. Or if you've just jumped in, fair play to you. More again in 2 weeks. Slán.